If your cat could actually explain what you are to them, the answer would surprise you, because owner isn't a concept they have any framework for at all. That word belongs entirely to us. It describes a legal relationship, a financial responsibility, a role built around paperwork and property. Your cat has never once thought of themselves as owned, and they've never thought of you as someone who owns them. So what do they actually think you are? The answer is more specific, more biological, and honestly more touching than most owners ever consider. These 7 roles explain exactly what your cat has actually filed you under, in the only categories their brain actually uses. But the 7th one changes everything, because it reveals the one identity your cat holds for you that nothing else in their entire life comes close to matching. Let's start with the most basic one first. 1. You are their primary source of survival, and that shapes everything else. Strip away all the emotional complexity for a moment, and start with the most fundamental layer. In the most basic behavioral sense, your cat's brain categorizes you first and foremost as their reliable source of food, water, warmth, and shelter. This isn't cold or unfeeling, it's simply the foundation everything else gets built on top of. In the wild, an animal's relationship with resource providers is one of the most powerful behavioral drivers that exists. Reliability matters enormously. A source that consistently delivers what's needed gets treated very differently than one that's unpredictable or scarce. Your cat has spent every single day of their life with you gathering data on exactly how reliable you are, and by now, that data set is enormous. This is part of why consistency matters so much to cats, and why erratic feeding schedules or unpredictable environments create so much visible stress. You're not just a person your cat happens to like. You're the confirmed, tested, reliable answer to nearly every basic survival question your cat's brain is constantly, quietly asking. That foundation, boring as it sounds, is what everything more emotional gets built on top of. Nothing warmer can exist without this layer being solid first. 2. You are their territory's central landmark. Cats organize their entire understanding of space around fixed, reliable points. In the wild, that might be a den, a water source, a favored resting spot. In your home, that role belongs almost entirely to you. Your cat doesn't just live in a house with you in it. Their internal map of that house is organized substantially around your location within it. This is why cats often follow their owner from room to room, why they seem to instinctively know where you are even without looking, why a room you've just left can feel different to them, slightly less anchored, than a room you're currently in. You're not simply present in their territory. You function as one of its core coordinates, a fixed point everything else gets measured against. This explains a behavior a lot of owners find confusing. A cat who seems completely relaxed in one part of the house, suddenly becoming more alert or clingy when you're not there. It's not separation anxiety in the dramatic sense people usually mean. It's closer to your cat's internal map losing one of its most important reference points and needing to recalibrate until you're back in position. You're not just someone who lives there. In a very real sense, you help define what there even means. 3. You are the one member of their world with an unpredictable, endlessly interesting inner life. Cats are sharp, constant observers, and after enough time living with you, they've almost certainly picked up on something most owners never think about. You are, by a wide margin, the most complex, unpredictable, and endlessly novel thing in their entire environment. Furniture doesn't change. Walls don't move. Most of your home stays static day after day. You, on the other hand, are in near constant motion, emotionally, physically, behaviorally. Your tone shifts. Your energy shifts. You do different things at different times for reasons your cat can't fully pass, but can absolutely detect. This makes you, functionally, the single most interesting object of ongoing observation in their entire world, a source of near-endless novel information in an otherwise fairly static environment. This is part of why cats spend so much time simply watching their owners, seemingly doing nothing, no clear goal, no request being made. You're not being surveilled out of suspicion. You're being studied the way any intelligent, curious creature studies the most complex, information-rich thing available to them. In a world of predictable furniture and static walls, you are, quite literally, the most interesting show in the house. 4. You are their emotional weather system. Here's something that surprises a lot of owners the first time they really consider it. Cats are remarkably sensitive to shifts in their environment's overall emotional tone, and you are, by a significant margin, the primary source of that tone in their world. When you're relaxed, calm, moving through your day without tension, that state radiates outward, and cats pick up on it far more than most people realize. through body language, movement patterns, even subtle changes in scent linked to stress hormones. When you're anxious, rushed, or emotionally strained, that shifts too, and your cat notices, even if they can't understand why. In a very real sense, your emotional state functions as ambient weather in their world, something they exist inside of and respond to, whether or not it's ever directed at them specifically. This is part of why cats often seem to know when something's wrong before you've said a word, and why some cats become notably more clingy or more withdrawn during periods of household stress that have nothing directly to do with them. You're not just a person in their environment. You're the dominant emotional climate they live inside every single day, and their own behavior shifts accordingly, almost like a smaller ecosystem responding to the conditions of a much larger one. If any of this is changing how you think about your role in your cat's daily world, tap that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps us reach more cat owners who want to actually understand the relationship from their cat's side of it. 5. You are the safest possible version of unpredictability. This one sounds like a contradiction, but it isn't. Cats are instinctively wary of anything unpredictable, since unpredictability, in the wild, is often the first sign of danger. And yet you, an unpredictable, constantly shifting presence, are simultaneously one of the safest things in your cat's entire life. How does that work? The answer is that predictability and safety aren't actually the same thing, even though they usually travel together. What your cat has actually learned, through thousands of repeated interactions, is that your specific brand of unpredictability never crosses into danger. You might come home at a different time, you might be in a different mood, you might rearrange the furniture, but across all of that variation, the underlying pattern holds. None of it has ever resulted in genuine harm. This is an incredibly sophisticated form of trust, one built entirely through repetition and consistency at the level that actually matters. Your cat isn't relying on you to always do the exact same thing. They're relying on the much deeper pattern that whatever you do, it stays within a range that's always, ultimately safe. That's a far more advanced form of trust than simple routine following, and it's one that takes an enormous amount of accumulated evidence to build. 6. You're the only creature they've ever fully let their guard down around. Watch how your cat behaves around you compared to literally anyone or anything else in their life, and a pattern becomes obvious fast. The belly exposed during sleep, the soft, half-closed eyes, the complete physical relaxation, muscles loose, no tension held anywhere. This level of unguarded vulnerability is rare, and it's not something cats extend casually or to many individuals. In the wild, and even among cats who are otherwise perfectly social with each other, full physical vulnerability, sleeping deeply, exposing the stomach, entering a state of reduced alertness, is reserved almost exclusively for situations of complete, tested safety. It's not extended to acquaintances. It's not extended based on a single good interaction. It's earned slowly, through an accumulated pattern of evidence that nothing bad has ever happened, and nothing bad is likely to happen, in this specific relationship. If your cat regularly exposes this kind of vulnerability around you, and rarely or never around anyone else, that's not a small detail. It's one of the clearest, most consistent signals available that you occupy a category in their life that essentially nothing else does. Not a stranger, not even necessarily every other person they know and like. A specific, narrow category built entirely around total, tested safety, one your cat doesn't hand out easily to anyone. 7. You are the one relationship in their entire life that isn't optional. Remember at the start when I said the last one changes everything? Here it is. Nearly every other relationship in a cat's life, with other cats, with other animals, even with other people who visit or live nearby, carries at least some degree of choice, some ability to simply avoid or disengage if things become uncomfortable. Your relationship with your cat doesn't work that way, and your cat knows it, on some fundamental level, even if they can't articulate it. You're not one option among several in their world. In the environment your cat actually lives in, you're functionally the entire infrastructure of their existence, all at once. Not because they're forced to tolerate you, but because the relationship itself occupies a category with no real equivalent anywhere else in their life. There's no backup version of you, no alternate source they could quietly shift their trust toward if something changed. The role you occupy is singular, non-transferable, and built entirely around the specific history the two of you have accumulated together. This is why the bond between a cat and their person, when it's genuinely settled and secure, tends to feel different from almost every other relationship a cat has. It's not built on convenience or proximity or the absence of better alternatives. It's built on total, accumulated, tested reliance, the kind that doesn't have a backup plan and doesn't need one, because it's never once been given a reason to. So the next time someone calls you your cat's owner, know that the word barely scratches the surface of what you actually are to them. You're their landmark, their weather system, their most interesting subject of study, their tested safe harbor, and the one relationship in their entire life that was never optional to begin with. Owner was always the wrong word. It just took your cat's entire life next to you to prove it.